أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي Selamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will start from the 14th droplet. This is 19th word, 14th droplet.
14th droplet. The Almighty Quran, the treasury of miracles and supreme miracle, proves the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him, together with divine unity so decisively that it leaves no need for further proof. And we shall give its definition and indicate one or two flashes of its miraculousness which have been the cause of criticism. The Almighty Quran, which makes known to us our sustainer, is thus. It is the Preeternal Translator of the great book of the universe, the discloser of the treasures of the divine names concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens, the key to the truths hidden beneath these lines of events, the treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses, which come forth from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world, the sun, foundation, and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, and the map of the worlds of the hereafter, the distinct expounder, lucid exposition, articulate proof, and clear translator of the divine essence, attributes, and deeds, the instructor, true wisdom, guide, and leader of the world of humanity. It is both a book of wisdom and law, and a book of prayer and worship, and a book of command and summons, and a book of invocation and divine knowledge. It is book for all spiritual needs, and it is a sacred library offering books appropriate to the ways of all the saints, and veracious, the purified and the scholars, whose ways and paths are all different. Consider the flashes of miraculousness in its repetitions, which are imagined to be a fault. Since the Quran is both a book of invocation and a book of prayer and a book of summons, the repetition in it is desirable. Indeed, it is essential and most eloquent. It is not as the faulty imagine, for the mark of invocation is illumination through repetition. The mark of prayer is strengthening through repetition. The mark of command and summons is confirmation through repetition. Moreover, everyone is not capable of always reading the whole Quran, but is mostly able to read one surah. Therefore, since the most important purposes of the Quran are included in most of the longer surahs, each is like a small Quran. That is to say, so that no one should be deprived, certain of its aims like divine unity, the resurrection of the dead, and the story of Moses have been repeated. Also, like bodily needs, spiritual needs are various. Man is need of some of them every breath. Like the body needs air, the spirit needs the word who, he. He is in need of every hour, like in the name of God, and so on. That means the repetition of verses arises from the repetition of need. It makes the repetition in order to point out the need and awaken and incite it, and to arouse desire and appetite. Also, the Quran is a founder. It is the basis of the clear religion and the foundation of the world of Islam. It changed human social life and is the answer to the repeated questions of its various classes. Repetition is necessary for a founder in order to establish things. Repetition is necessary to corroborate them. Confirmation and repetition are necessary to strengthen them. Also, it speaks of such mighty matters and minute truths that numerous repetitions are necessary in different forms in order to establish them in everyone's hearts. Nevertheless, they are apparently repetitions, but in reality, every verse has numerous meanings, numerous benefits, and many aspects and levels. In each place, they are mentioned with a different meaning for different benefits and purposes. Also, the Quran's being unspecific and concise in certain matters to do with cosmos is a flash of miraculousness for the purpose of guidance. It cannot be the target of criticism and is not a fault, like some atheists imagine.
Can you read the last two paragraphs again? Sorry.
Can you read the last two again?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Also, it speaks of such mighty matters and minute truths that numerous repetitions are necessary in different forms in order to establish them in everyone's hearts. Nevertheless, they are apparently repetitions, but in reality, every verse has numerous meanings, numerous benefits, and many aspects and levels. In each place, they are mentioned with a different meaning for different benefits and purposes. Also, the Quran's being unspecific and concise in certain matters to do with cosmos is a flash of miraculousness for the purpose of guidance. It cannot be the target of criticism, and it is not a fault, like some atheists imagine.
So, Quran is so again, the topic of 19th word was we are asking questions to the Prophet. We are trying to get accustomed to the Prophet. And in this 14th droplet, he is saying that Quran is the biggest miracle of the messenger. So if you would like to get a proof, this is going to be a proof that stands by itself. So much of a strong proof. This is what I understand from it's a proof so decisively that there is no need for further proof. But saying that, he starts with, and he's going to show some aspects or proofs of Quran. But while doing that, he is starting from a very awkward way. He's saying that we are going to talk about some miraculous aspects of Quran, which are the source of criticism by some people. So he's not talking about some very clear, miraculous aspects of Quran, but he's starting from very apparently problematic aspects of Quran and going to show that they are miraculous. So after this introduction, we can read the first paragraph again, in which he is going to provide a definition of Quran. And I guess defining Quran is important because according to a definition, we will make our understanding and interpretation. And this is why I guess this paragraph is especially important. So, Asim, would you like to read us this paragraph?
Which one, the first one or the second?
The second one. The all-wise Quran.
You know, like in the first one also, I just wanted to make a comment on that. You know, how he's saying that this all-wise Quran proves the prophethood of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Right? I know with this 19th word has mainly focused on the prophethood of Muhammad, and I think now, since this being the 14th droplet, the last ones, we already have some background on what the understanding of what prophethood means for us and how we really need that in our lives, because it's something that was very revolutionary, whatever that prophethood brought to us. And I think here also there's a link being made that there's no way that that revolution could be achieved without actually bringing the Quran into the picture. Right, so that's one comment I just wanted to add on to what you said, Yusuf. And inshallah, let's read the paragraph. The all-wise Quran, which makes known to us our sustainer, is thus. The Quran is the pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe. The pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe. The discloser of the treasures of the divine names, concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens. So the divine names are concealed, and the Quran is the discloser of those treasures of divine names. The Quran is the key to the truths hidden beneath these lines of events. The treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses. All right, so what do I understand from the key to the truths hidden beneath these lines of events? So these lines of events, so the Quran is like a book. So the universe is also like a book, right? So he's comparing that, the truths hidden in these whatever events that we go through. So each line, as it discloses certain things, it also opens up and is a key to finding out what the truth is that we have to discover, because they are all mysteriously hidden, and then the Quran acts as the key to open that up. And the treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses. So it points to us the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses, which come forth from the world of the unseen, beyond the veil of this manifest world. The sun, foundation, and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. Plan of the spiritual world of Islam, and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. The distinct expounder, lucid exposition, articulate proof, and clear translator of the divine essence, attributes, and deeds. Clear translator of the divine essence, attributes, and deeds. The instructor, true wisdom, guide, and leader of the world of humanity. The Quran is also the instructor, true wisdom, guide, and leader of the world of humanity. So basically, conscious beings, that's who are addressed by this instruction. It is both a book of wisdom and law, and a book of prayer and worship, and a book of command and summons, and a book of invocation and divine knowledge. It is a book for all spiritual needs. It is a book for all these spiritual needs. And it is a sacred library offering books appropriate to the ways of all the saints and veracious, the purified and the scholars, whose ways and paths are all different.
So, any part that anybody would like to emphasize? We have read a lot of descriptions of Quran here. I'm just making a overall comment about the whole paragraph. These descriptions are important because it defines our expectations from Quran. As he said that there are some criticism towards Quran, and then this criticism is because Quran is not properly defined. So if I know what to expect out of it, then I will see its miraculousness. So for example, if I am trying to use a spoon as a shovel, then certainly spoon is not to be used as a shovel. And it will definitely not satisfy my expectations out of it. So what is Quran? So that if the criticisms have any right in the first place, and then once I guess we get rid of the criticisms and instead show that it's fulfilling all those descriptions in here in a miraculous way, then author can make his point in terms of saying that the person that brought this message must be different because this is beyond his capacity to come up with such a message. So what do you guys think about Preeternal Translator of the Great Book of the Universe, for example? Anybody would like to say anything about that?
Assalamu alaikum. I don't have anything right now to say about that, but I'm just, again, pondering over the introduction and connecting it to the second paragraph. So just like how Asim started off with that, the message that this prophethood of Muhammad brings to us is like revolutionary. It's not, it is still ongoing. It's not that something that was revolutionary. No, it's a live message. So that revolution is going on right now. it should be. I mean, if one is open. So the way I'm taking it right now, definitely what is being presented, and I'm just like by reading this text. So it's like so I'm being presented this message, and I've underlined a couple of words, and I wanted to go over it in terms of maybe let's elaborate. So let's say if I'm presented with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like on the 5th sentence of the 2nd paragraph, it says, which come forth from the world of the unseen. So it's talking about, this all-wise Quran, like something, it's talking about something coming from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. So I feel like so I'm being introduced to this, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. Okay, that's interesting. So I live in this manifest world, definitely, and you're telling me that everything that I'm experiencing is coming from the unseen. What is the unseen? What are you talking about, right? So that would be my first thing. So let's define what unseen means. And so it's coming from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. So what I'm experiencing right now is the manifest world, and you're telling me that's coming from, this is not it, right? So I'm really perplexed right now. And it does look like a revolution because it's, wow, okay, so you're presenting me with this, but how do I make sense of it right now? So if we can work it out a little bit on that, that would be good.
So I want to go back to Yusuf's question. It says, Preeternal Translator of the great book of the universe. I'm thinking, like, wouldn't it be just enough to say translator of the great book of the universe? Why Preeternal Translator? One thing comes to my mind is trying to say that the speeches encompasses times, all times, and it even goes beyond our reach. Because with our, let's say, sciences like history, for instance, we are able to make sense of past events. So when it says Preeternal, it sounds like he encompasses everything, like he knows, or the message gives us the perfect definition, regardless of how much you need to go into past. It's like the message keeping the universe in its hand.
The translator part is interesting here. What would you translate? So there is a text, it's written in a different language, and since it's a text, it must carry some meaning, and I am in need of understanding this text. This is why I need a translator. So do I look at the universe as such? Is it a thing that, first of all, has a meaning? It says book, right? Yeah. Because if I look at it from the way that science is studying the universe, we are not really trying to make sense of it or understand it or think that it is a meaningful book. We're just trying to conquer it, like gain more of it, that's it, but not trying to understand the meaning in it because we don't think that it's a book. So taking it as a book, translating its meaning to a language that makes sense to me. And then comes the Preeternal Translator. So not a translator, because if it was not a Preeternal Translator, if it was a translator of its own time, then I guess I wouldn't be worried about what it is saying for me today. I wouldn't expect anything to be taken out of it. That this was some sort of a meaning that was valid for them at their time. This translator being a Preeternal Translator, meaning that it is being translated to me today in a way that it will make sense to me here and now.
Which is by itself, I guess, very interesting because the language that's being used. It's not preeternal. It's just Arabic, right, the words. But still, the translation is preeternal. At least this is what author says. It's a huge miracle by itself. Giving a preeternal translation, or let's say a message, using human language, which is bound to time and space.
So, pre-eternity, does it refer to the text? Two questions, like one, like does it refer to the text itself? And the other thing is like, what do you guys exactly mean by pre-eternal, or what do you think that the author means by pre-eternal?
So, the first question, the translation is...
So we have Quran, right? Like from cover to cover, written in some sort of text. So like when he talks about like here, the Quran, what he refers to, does it refer to that like Musaf, that what we know as Quran, with like some beginning and end? Or does it refer to something else? And the next question is, he describes it as the pre-eternal. It's some sort of description of the Quran, right? So what does he mean by pre-eternal?
One question which may be related to your first question. Faria asks, what has been translated?
So as far as I understand, Quran is translating the meaning of existence to us. So Quran is a book, but universe is a book here. So the book Quran is translating the book of universe to me in a way that I am going to understand and make sense of. So universe is being translated into a way that I understand
In Quran.
in Quran.
So here, author, as far as I understand, which I agree with Yusuf, the author is not talking about the translation of the Quran or the message. He's talking about the translation of the universe, which is being made by Quran. Going back to Osman question, the first one, is he talking about the text or something else? But personally, I wouldn't say something else because there's no such thing as Quran without the text. But I would possibly think that, yes, he's probably talking about what we get from Quran when we read the text.
So I think the question in there is, here Nursi is talking about a concept, so defining that speech of God, as God is eternal, His speech is eternal. And when we say Quran, we are talking about conceptual speech of God. That today, for me, it is this mushaf, if you say, like this book, which is 600 pages book, with which I am being manifest to such a speech. So for me, this is where I'm going to find this eternal speech. So, I mean, it goes to a theological discussion in there, and it's a very essential discussion, but I don't know if it's going, I mean, if today's discussion is going to be a proper place to get into that much depth. But yes, speech of God by definition needs to be pre-eternal. According to my conclusion about existence of God, as I say, there must exist a God. In the same way, I say that
so like when we say pre-eternal, then we mean the absolute nature of the speech.
Yeah, it's not bound to space or time or anything that I can describe with creation in the attributes that I would attribute to creation. I cannot attribute them to this speech. But yet at the same time, I am being manifest, or I am being So I hear some words, like in physical world, I hear some words, and these are being that much I have access to this preeternal speech. So then what does it mean for me practically to say that this speech is preeternal? Although I will always be in touch with it in the manifest world. So whatever I touch in terms of speech of God is going to be limited. So once it comes to my domain, it's going to be limited. The pre-eternalness disappears. So it is going to become practical when I am going to, the way it's manifest on me is going to change based on this perspective. Because it's easier to take it the other way around. If I think that Quran is not a pre-eternal speech in its essence, in its structure, then what that means is, it is some word that was said 14 centuries ago. Either it's pre-eternal or it is time-bound. If it is time-bound 14 centuries ago, then it's cut. It's not the speech of someone who knew me, who knew that I was going to be living in Philadelphia in 2018. But if I say that this is speech of a pre-eternal one, then that means the speaker, while he speaks, is aware of me living in 2018 Philadelphia, although this speech was first heard 14 centuries ago. So still, when I hear the same speech today, I can take it from fresh, from the original source. But again, once I touch it, it becomes limited. So the pre-eternal part, when we say pre-eternal, we talk about its essence. It's not when I am starting to touch it or putting it in my intellect, putting it into my memory, writing it over my paper. These are all limited. So this pre-eternal aspect disappears.
So like, just going with the text, it is the pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe. So the universe itself, if you think about it, like it goes to the infinity in terms of like the vastness of it. And there is a creator of this universe, and the same creator is a speaking creator, and he speaks in an internal manner, like eternal manner, because like his qualities must be like, since he is absolute, his qualities must be absolute too, right? So like his speech must be like as such as well. So when he speaks to teach me what his product is, like which is the universe. So this is what the text is talking about on a superficial level. And when it comes to what it means to be in pre-eternal speech, and what my relationship with it, like how my relationship is with that speech, in practical terms, when, for example, says like verse says there is no God but Him. The aspect that looks to the Creator, eternal, which means whatever He means with that phrase, with that statement, the meanings goes to the eternity. The aspect that looks to me is what you are, I think, trying to say, is created and time-bound and space-bound, which is my understanding of that statement from it. Which means every time when I read it, at different time, like occasions, like that verse, by definition, should mean something different to me. Another layer of meaning that I should be able to get out of it. And when it comes to like how this becomes the translation, or like the speech becomes the translated of the creation, I think it's there like it is your experiences in the universe, and trying to make sense of those experiences. So there's an active relation, like communication with the creator, like in the moment. So like, in other words, there's a speaker, there's an addressee, like yourself, and with your interactions and problems and like or the questions that you are trying to understand your own like, existence of the universe itself. Within that dynamic, like I think the speech becomes a translator for you to teach you what your own experiences mean. So whatever you understand from that like setup, whatever you understand, that's your own understanding from the speech. And the aspect that looks to the creator is eternal, that no one can comprehend, which like in a way like it shows the abundance of the meanings that one cannot get out of it.
I'd like to ask the question is, was the discussion that was going on clear for everyone? Any questions about this part? This might be a little bit of a tricky topic. I guess pre-eternal aspect of Quran, what does that mean? If it's clear, we can pass to the next one. If not, we can discuss more. Or any comments? More than welcome.
So what did you say about the pre-eternal? That means like the absoluteness of the speech? Is that what we are understanding?
In theory, yes, it is, the speech is absolute. But I guess I'm more concerned about what does it practically mean. And I guess this is best understood. What would happen if it was not absolute? What would happen if it is not pre-eternal? So my speech is not pre-eternal, for example. And if I say to you something to you today, you can say that, well, let's say I'm giving you some sort of a suggestion. You will take it with a grain of salt for sure. You will say that, well, yeah, okay, Yusuf is a good guy, but he doesn't know me perfectly, first of all. And he's living in Philadelphia, I live in Chicago. He's living in this sort of a job, I am working in that sort of a job. So he's coming from that background, I am living in this sort of a family. So he's not really 100% applying me, but maybe 30%. So then you will filter out, all considering me and my background, and then maybe take only 30% out of it, because you would say that the speech is only that much. And 20 years down the road, if you listen to these discussions, you will say that, yeah, okay, those suggestions were okay at the day, but today, oh, the world has changed, I have changed, everything has changed. So they're now pointless. They have no meaning at all. So now take the exact opposite of that. So, speech being absolute means the speaker speaks to you within your own conditions, being aware of your own conditions, and without having get bound in his knowledge, without being bounded by space or time himself. He speaks to you as if he, well, not really as if, he knows you perfectly and talks to you knowingly everything about you. Meaning that I can approach the text with this consciousness, since this is the fact, and then try to apply it to myself, considering that the speaker is that much aware of me. This is what this Preeternal Translator practically means to me. And I am knowingly trying to avoid getting stuck with the word absolute. Yes, it is true that it means absolute, but anything that we talk about God is absolute. So, speech being absolute practically means that. But we can apply it to anything. So just trying to expand this word absolute, otherwise, I guess we are getting used to this term, and some meanings are being lost behind the term itself. Any comments, questions?
I just feel that there's still a lot of background work that needs to be done, even to come to this conclusion here, pre-eternal translator, like even the translator part. I mean, I'm just thinking because what we're experiencing is whatever we're given here in this universe, and somebody comes in and, you know, shakes us up in terms of telling us, you know, to question, you know, your existence. And obviously with that, we have to, within ourselves, communicate with, I mean, we get meaning from things, and so that's the speech being translated to us, the meaning that we extract, or thoughts or whatever is coming into our minds. That's being translated from some source. And yeah, so I question this whole phenomenon, and that's where the prophethood of, where prophecy comes into play, that, hey, yeah, whatever you're experiencing, question, you know, what's the source of all this? So that's how the speech becomes a live speech, and rather than, yeah, I mean, it's a live speech for each one of us individually and personally. And then you can connect that to the, I guess, the verbal side. Like the book of the universe, you can connect that to the verbal side of the book of the universe.
The way I understand this part, like the Preeternal Translator of the great book of the universe, is that as I continue living, I experience things, and I should interact with these things in a way as if I'm reading a book and trying to get out of a message. So when I look at my lovely friend Abdul Rahman sitting in front of me, I should try to extract a message out of it. The way he is being created in front of me, the way he wears his glasses, the way he smiles, the way he nods his head, and so on and so forth. Like nothing is being creating without a purpose. I should be looking for the purpose and meaning and message in all my experiences. This is what I understand from this book of universe part. Book of universe. Because in a book, not a single word, if it is written properly, not a single word is for nothing. And every word has a purpose there. When they come together, they give a message, a meaning. And I should look at my experiences in that way. We usually get lost with other interpretation of the experiences, like I have a problem with my boss, and it's all about my feelings and my boss' actions. It's not a book anymore. I'm not trying to get a message out of this experience. But it says here, you should read the universe, meaning everything you interact with, as a book. And then he says, but while doing that, you will have some difficulties understanding what's going on. You cannot come up with explanations of everything by yourself. It will be as if you're reading a book, you're getting some words, but you're not fluent with the language. Okay? So you will need some help, a perfect translation of what you are reading, which will make sense to you. Because since it's a book of the universe, everybody, like many people sharing sometimes we share the same experience, apparently share the same experience. We're reading the same, let's say, sentence of the book, but the translation's meaning will be different from one person to another. And so this translation should also somehow account for that as well. And also I will read one sentence with one event today and then tomorrow and then a month later. The translation should adapt itself to changing times. All these come together. Author says it's a pre-eternal translator of the universe.
And I guess this is even important because Messenger is a translator of Quran to us, if we take it as such. So the Prophet himself is a translator of Quran or a teacher of Quran to me as well. But is the Messenger himself a pre-eternal translator, for instance? This is why I guess he made at the very beginning the case that it is a live tree. So he established prophethood as this, or attributed this job to the prophethood, not to the prophet himself as a single person. Because he is not a pre-eternal translator. He interpreted Quran to people in his age and showed them how to live it. But then, ages after ages, people contributed to the understanding of Quran from whatever they were being faced with. So, for example, if you consider today, let's say, science is having a lot of, or posing a lot of questions which were not posed before, so therefore not explicitly answered into that much detail. What are we doing? They're saying that, okay, at their age, this was the answer that was given, and this answer was taken from those verses of Quran. Now we go to the same verses, we see how they extracted those meanings from those verses, and we study those verses, now considering those new questions that the age is posing on us. And then we interpret Quran in a different way now, or extending the meaning, not necessarily super different, but expanding the meaning of the Quran. This is why Mursi says, as the time gets old, Quran gets younger. Because still it's growing, it's expanding, its meanings are expanding. So in this sense, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was not a pre-eternal translator of Quran. So in this case, for example, Mursi is being part of this tree, this lineage. He is also an interpreter or a translator of Quran. But none of them are pre-eternal translators of this text, for instance. I'm just giving this example to increase the contrast and locate what it means, Quran being a pre-eternal translator.
So what we're really saying is translator is really anything that's helping one make sense of their existence. That would be it. A translator.
So like the meaning that we are getting from the universe. So the Quran is, as it says, the eternal translator of that meaning. So the meaning actually points to the eternal, something eternal, right?
So when you say meaning, you mean like the experiences, right? Whatever you're feeling, that would be a meaning.
Yeah, everything. Anything that you can think of, like Birkan was giving all those examples. So any event, anything that you see, any opportunity of in existence that you are, experiencing, any experience, that has a meaning to it. And then Quran provides that meaning. It translates that, and then that meaning actually has something that points to it's eternal. That's because the sentence starts off, the Quran makes us known who the sustainer is, and then it qualifies the definitions that it is the translator of the great book of the universe. So I take it as, something that is the meaning that is being translated actually has this notion of eternity in that, because it points to that eternal thing. Something that is not, within the universe, is because it's translating what is in the universe. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you. It does.
And so by definition, we can also expect that anything that people have ever or will come across in the existence should be explained in the Quran. Since it's the translator of this book of universe, whatever is in the book of universe must have been translated or explained in the Quran. Practically meaning that if you come across any problem, you should be finding its answer in the Quran. If a question is posed, answer should be in the Quran. If you go through some struggle, there must be a guidance for it in the Quran, according to this sentence. And Quran is also claiming the same, saying that whatever is dry or wet, everything is written in the Quran, or Kitabul Mubin, this is how it is being explained. And I would expect such a thing from a speech of God.
I guess the word explain or make sense should be used maybe a little careful, because as Asim was saying, I missed this part previously, it starts with which makes known to us our sustainer. So this is the purpose. With any explanation or making sense of the universe, this is the purpose. Otherwise, it's not like, the explanation made by, a mathematician. Because you can explain things using some differential equations and show, any experience you have has the optimal amount of energy of something. It would be an explanation in its from a different perspective, but Quran is not such an explanation. It's explanation so that which makes us know our sustainer. So for instance, I look at the sun, I see a sun there, which is hot and bright. Right? I say, what is this? And some people come and tell me, making explanation or making sense, telling me the inner dynamics of the star, how hydrogen atoms come together and constitute the, what is it? Not helium, but whatever. The other atoms, and how these produce energy. So this is why it's hot and bright, and so this is an explanation. And then gravity, how it keeps it there. But Quran, the way Quran explains it, it says we put sun as a lamp for you. So now it makes my sustainer known to me. There's a huge difference between the two.
So, we shall give a 10 minutes break for Maghrib. Inshallah, we will continue at 8:15.
Yeah, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, we are back. I see that there is a message from Fariha. She's saying that your feelings are part of the book. This might have been a previous comment, if not correctly, Fariha. And the other one, speech of God, Quran, is like your to-go existence engine, just like a search engine. What I understand from that is, we were saying that you go through some struggles and you are trying to find a way out of it. What does that mean? Why am I going through that? So I would look for answers in the Quran, like as I would search for Google to find out if I need to fix something. Let's say I write it to YouTube or Google how to fix this, how to fix that. And what I understand from Fariha's comment is speech of God is my engine, existence engine, that I should search for solutions to my problems.
Maybe just to expand it just a little bit, I would say it's more like a personal, let's say like a psychiatrist, or to someone I can go and speak and talk, and she or he would listen to me and then answer me back. Because we say it's a speech, so I guess the analogy should be closer to a speech.
Good. So, is there any further comments? If not, we will proceed to the next one. Fariha, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, I agree with that, but I just wanted to also add on that, I mean, it's not a struggle, though, if you think about it, or existential problems. It's very human. Everybody has those, but we're just shunning it away. So, I mean, when they do emerge, then obviously you have the engine, the existence engine available. So just look into it, and it translates things out, or it points you to the right direction. And also, like the psychiatrist part, I mean, it looks, I think everybody has, we all have those problems, or maybe not. I mean, I'm sure some people may have solved it, like the prophetic type, but if you're not solving those, then definitely you gotta keep, lay out a plan for yourself, or whatever discoveries you're getting from your research, and help yourself out with it. At the end of the day, that's what, what do you say, knowledge, not a knowledge base. I don't want to call the Quran a knowledge base, but it could be, I mean, a live, entity where you can make sense of things. And I'm thinking, so this like existential questions that one has, it's like an ongoing journey. Is there a point that you reach peace within it? And therefore, I mean, you would always need, right? You would always need this search engine available. Like, does it always strike one? Or if you're really training yourself well, then, your graph should look like steady. Otherwise, it's like up and down, like how the heartbeat is on a monitor. Yeah, just some thoughts.
So now we talked about Preeternal Translator of the Great Book of the Universe. This was a description for Quran. Then author goes on saying, disclosure of the treasures of the divine names concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens. Any quick comment for this one? Maybe a slow comment.
Slow?
Quick, slow, whatever, some comment.
I don't know what slow comments means.
Slow comment means it takes 1 hour, 10 minutes. As we did. It was good, alhamdulillah, it was necessary. So
for me, the important or interesting parts, or let's say the maybe practically important parts, are the disclosures of the treasures of divine names concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens. I guess it also tells me how I should look at the heavens and the earth. So everything I interact with, everything I experience should be taught as pages which hides some divine names. Includes, let's say, not hide, but includes some divine names. And I should be living my life so that I can discover these divine names, get known to these divine names, the treasures of these divine names. This is something I'm after. When it says treasures, it makes me happy, so I am after it. But this is how I need to live my life. As if I'm constantly searching for some treasures out of the pages of the earth and the heavens. What is going on around me?
Actually, we are searching for treasure in our lives, but everybody's treasure is different. It might be that I am trying to publish a paper in one of those top journals and I'm going to get 500 citations every year. And this would be a treasure for me because then, I'm going to get the best job offer, this and that, everything is going to unfold. And it's going to be a treasure for me if I consider it as a treasure. So this is why, so there are a lot of books. If you go to a bookstore today, we are going to find a lot of books telling us how to become rich. Because in the eyes of the authors, the world is again a treasure house, but you need to know how to make money out of it. And they are teaching you how to just build up your career so that you are going to become the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. So it's definitely everybody is looking for treasure. But Quran's perspective or understanding of treasure is different. So it is saying that the treasure is the divine names. And in that, I'm going to talk to you about.
And this is what you interact constantly, like in your daily life, this is what you face. And what you have in front of you, it's not your boss, it's not your wife, it's divine names that you are seeing in front of you.
So I should be trying to maximize my profit out of this treasure, not from any other treasure. Because we were talking about this before. There's a friend of ours, and nowadays he's trying really hard to achieve something. And he tells us about his schedule. He says, I wake up at 5, I work until 8 in the morning about the specific thing that he's trying to get into. And at 8, he comes to work. From 8 to 5 in the work, he is working quite intense. After 5, he goes home, he takes care of his wife and dog for 1.5 hours. He says, I am just being with them. And then from that time until he goes to bed, he again works for this special thing that he's trying to achieve. So I said, awesome. And I'm not putting that much effort to treasure of divine names, for example. It's really encouraging in a sense to see that people are really putting a lot of effort to get some worldly treasures. And we were talking to him and he was saying that it would be really disheartening to hear that I'm going to die because of cancer at some point because I am putting so much effort into that. He says, if doctor tells me tomorrow that you're going to die in cancer in 2 years, what am I going to do, he says. So for such a treasure, which is not really guaranteed for him, is very much into it and he's using a very strong willpower to really chase it. And since then I'm questioning myself how much willpower I am putting into finding the treasure that I consider to be true treasure.
I think this last statement, the disclosure of the treasures of divine names, is in a way explains what the translation means. Because the previous sentence was the translator, right? It translates something from something to something else. Do you think authors give some sort of hint in here that what that translation is? And how you should be reading or in a way it's teaching you how to read the earth and the heaven.
I guess we can think these divine names as the words of the language. And this is how Quran translates the earth and the heavens in the language of divine names. So for instance, I guess this also gives me another, not the definition, but the way I should approach the Quran. When I read a verse in the Quran, my attitude should be what divine names this verse teaching me about. Because in Quran it talks about sometimes the daily life issues, and sometimes some events in the past and so on. I shouldn't read it in that way, but I should read it as what divine names now it's teaching me, disclosing in front of me.
So these divine names is really the meaning that one extract, I would say, because what I'm gathering from seeking out the treasure. People are seeking out maybe the wrong treasure. No, it's not that. It's we're in the universe, we're interacting. You have to do what you gotta do. Work or make a like a good living or career, whatever. Do pursue that, but don't make that the ultimate aim. I mean, it's gotta be used. It's got to be used to seek out the hidden treasure. So yeah, everything is attractive. It's like, whoa, let me check this out. It looks like a treasure, or let's call it the treasure box, right? But then what's behind this treasure box? So yeah, just use out the experiences or whatever you're aiming for to seek out the meaning behind this. Why am I made to work hard? Why do I want to strive in my career? I'm waking up at 5 until whatever, and come home at 8. Whoa. I guess try to make sense of what you're doing. If you're passionate about it, great. Question this sense of passion and keep going on in this quest. But don't make that as, hey, that's your treasure. And obviously, when you realize that the universe in itself is transient, then you know that this is not it. But this is just a means for me to get to know something, or get acquainted, or get the direction for, what this treasure points to. I mean, that's how I'm seeing it as.
Jazakallah khair. Any other comments? We haven't heard the voice of Suhail for so long. If Suhail wants to contribute, or Muhammad Said.
It doesn't mean Asim cannot speak, right?
Yeah, okay, Asim is also.
So, in the meantime, as Suhail gets his thoughts together, or Muhammad Said or Asim. For example, when I look at that plant over there, so some sort of greenery, right? And Quran comes to my life and show that plant to me and translate that plant to me, saying what? Whatever you see there as either called plant or flower. So what would be the translation of the Quran, and what would be the divine names in that plant? So I will answer my own question.
Why are you asking?
When? I think the question is going to put it on the answer.
What is your question again?
I guess you need to speak loud.
Yes.
Do you have a cat or some sort of plant in your room, Asim?
Bird. He has a bird that was chirping. His neighbor's bird.
I had it, but the neighbor got it, so I don't have that bird anymore. But I do hear the sounds of birds from the window. Yes.
Okay. You have the birds, or you hear the birds, and that is the earth, right? That is one example from the earth. And Quran comes, that translates that experience for you in the first statement, and in the second statement, he says, it discloses treasuries of divine names. So within that example, what does that really mean? That's the question.
And you were about to give the answer to this question.
Yeah, so okay, so I'll give an attempt to what my answer is, like to Osman's question. You know, like the bird also has a meaning to it, and the chirping and whatever everything has. You know, not just the bird, the air, the sound, everything. And all those things, as we said, you know, previously in the previous sentence, there's a translation being done by the Quran, which points to something that, you know, that which is eternal. So within that meaning is what has to be like investigated and discovered, that the meaning is actually something which actually is a divine name. So maybe in the chirping there is some name of, you know, I don't know, beauty, mercy, or, you know, the serenities, different kind of whatever we can get from that event or that meaning that we are trying to discover. So the Quran helps us further, you know, uncover that particular meaning, and it always points to one of his names, that he is the provider, the sustainer, he is the voice giver, the, you know, the one that it gives you satisfaction or entertains you, the entertainer. So all those are the divine names that are available in the universe, but they have to be this first translated, and then that translation actually will point out further into and translate into a divine name.
So very quickly, the distinction, I guess, between the first one and the second one is, let's say I'm going through some struggle. Quran comes and tells me that this is a training. You are being trained. So it's not a struggle, it's not for waste, it's not you are being tortured, you are being trained. So this is the meaning of it. So now I am being instructed that this is a training, I am being taught. But then if I zoom out, that means somebody is training me. So this name aspect of it, because in the first I am seeing the action and I am trying to make sense of the action. And if I look on the surface, it's just torture or meaninglessness. But if I take it as training, now I start making sense of it. But now, having more of an abstract or a zooming out, saying that who is training me? And there must be a trainer or someone who is watching over me. So that means that this action is related to or coming from that, this trainer or teacher, provider. So, because there are all different levels of meaning as it refers to the source. One is the action makes sense with the existence of source. And then, because if you read the book, for example, there is a sentence, it's about love or something. So first the sentence is being translated to you so that you can understand the sentence. But then a person comes and says that, okay, you now understood what he is saying, but what is he doing? Now, this is a higher level of abstraction from the same text. You would say that, yeah, the author, by this sentence, he is showing mercy, or he is expounding on mercy because he is a merciful person. It is like a higher level of abstraction about the same text. So I guess this might be another way to take here. Quran is the translator of the universe, and it's also telling me about the names of the Creator. So a higher level of abstraction showing me the universe from a different lens, saying that, okay, this was the meaning, now one layer of higher abstraction, it is coming from such and such a source. Because in the following lines, he's going to talk about the Creator's divine essence, attributes, and deeds, for example.
It also makes sense with the next sentence. the key to the truth hidden beneath these lines of events. So you have encountering some events, you're part of some certain events, and there are some hidden truths behind them. At another level, you should reach these divine names through these actions, from these actions. The way it continues also. Also, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that with regards to two things. One, with the disclosure of the treasures of the divine names concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens. One thing, and I know we haven't gotten into it, but he's going to, and the next one is about talking about the truths behind lines of events. I don't think we generally, myself personally, we're always concerned with the temporal nature of the world, in that we're always thinking about things linearly. How one thing precedes another to another to another to another, or how all events are tied together. But we never really consider the moment as an independently existent reality, a universal moment, and consider, what does it mean? Forget about what happened in the past and what will happen in the future. Myself, it's very easy to think about, all things in the past and all things in the future and never really think about the present. And what does it even mean? Like, why does the present even exist? For what purpose is it? And I think that's kind of, really the importance of the Quran, or as he calls it, the all-wise Quran. I mean, the wisdom, not only behind revelation, but the wisdom within the book of the universe, in that it makes you consider, even in this, temporal nature, if you really think about it, it forces you to consider something, eternal, not of the nature of this universe, or specifically absolute, and in this case, the divine names. Because what we see here are, those manifestations, the effulgence of the divine names, they're treasures, not specifically them, but their manifestation. And once you kind of reorient yourself around that moment, things in a sense become trivial. You don't really, I don't want to say things lose importance, but to a degree they don't matter, in a sense of what is happening to you doesn't necessarily make as much of a difference as much as what it means to you, as it pertains to his divine names. And if you can get to that point, then the next step is, as he says, and the heavens. It ties yourself to, or brings you in connection to an eternal source, and well, I guess maybe the heavens he means the cosmos, but but to me, in a sense, also this connection to divine names ties you to an eternal source of existence. So in that same way, you kind of transcend the temporal nature of the universe by just considering, the moment. And it's very interesting. I mean, we often kind of forget about that.
So how do you consider the moment then?
Well, I think that takes a lot of, training and practice. That's kind of, I think, why we have a whole lifetime, why one has an entire lifetime to train and develop that sort of quality. Because, I mean, everything around you everything external to you is pulling you away from that moment, the manifestation of those divine names in that moment. And you know, I guess personally, my job is to, you know, realize that those things are external to me, and the only thing that really is of the greatest importance, the importance really, is what I am, you know, experiencing firsthand personally. How do I experience the world and its meaning specifically? So rather than saying, okay, hey, oh, somebody is maybe upset with me or hurt me or is, you know, may put me down. So let's say something I don't like, let's say, you know, rethinking that, saying, oh no, that's something external to me, and what is my perception of it? How do I feel about it? Is that something I like, and is that something that's reflective of the divine names, or is it not? Or maybe something positive, like, oh, there's something I like on the some beautiful scenery I'm experiencing, or some person I like talking to. You know, in a sense, that's still, you're still external if you don't consider it from a personal sense. If you don't think about it critically and say, you know, why is it that something external to myself makes me feel happy? You know, why is it that something material gives me some sort of immaterial feeling? What is there that is doing that? And that kind of leads you towards the meaningful aspect that one experiences in every moment through the universe, and then eventually leads you to these divine names, because those experiences are really the treasures. And it's you know, my job to see the connection between that treasure as a manifestations or an effulgence of his absolute names.
Oh, thank you. Yes, a lot to think about, actually. Because a lot of time, I mean, I get lost, at least, in just the physicality of my interactions. And even though at a moment I may experience some meaning or the immaterial aspect, but I think that's where the training lies, I would say. Just making that the important side of things, and like connecting that to the real meaning or deal of things. Yeah, I need to think more on this, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I at least, you know, the thing is, everything around you, or everyone and everything, and, you know, society, culture, your education wants you to think about the universe. It's not a book, you know, it's not a page, as he says. It's something, it's a material object, and not a book that you're reading. And so being in that environment makes you think you're not really reading a book, you know, and reading a book is a personal experience. You know, nobody can read the book. I mean, somebody can read the book for you, but your perception and interpretation of the book is still personal. How you feel about the book is still personal. And, you know, kind of in my everyday life, everybody wants to depersonalize it. They want to say, no, it's something external to you. You know, what you're feeling, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, I mean, they want to consider that independent of the outside things themselves, rather than saying, well, you know, how is it possible that something outside of me is, you know, making me feel a certain way? You know, well, there has to be something there. Like, what does it indicate, other than itself? And, you know, the Quran sort of, you know, really is the book that takes that into consideration. It doesn't, you know, I think, as Yusuf was saying, it doesn't consider the universe from a material aspect whatsoever. Not even in its narrations or its parables or in its anecdotes. It doesn't care about the material reality, because that, in a sense, that's not really what it's there for at all, the universe.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment, because when we're reading this, we might think it's very difficult to, I don't know, how am I going to live in the moment? How am I going to make sense of the world in the light of the Quran? See the divine names? And I'm thinking it seems very hard, but on the other hand, then I realize, you're not being left alone. Like, God keeps sending you through tribulations and hardships and then happiness. Like, right now, even I'm thinking of school and my tests, or I'm just thinking of random stuff, right, even in this discussion. And all these little things, they're all like anxieties, pains I'm going through. These are all actually, I feel, these are where I should be seeing the divine names. These are things that, He's kind of poking me and saying, feel these divine names. Or if I see something, I get really happy. If I can look at it through the light of the Quran, then I'll be able to say Alhamdulillah when I see that. So like, you're constantly being guided, you're constantly being pushed towards something. You're not just being left alone on this earth and life and said, okay, find me or something. Everything that is happening, and I guess that is what it means when everything is speaking to you. Everything that is happening is kind of poking you and pushing you and trying to bring you to him, and he's not leaving you alone. So it is hard, but on the other hand, I feel that it's kind of, we just have to open ourselves to it. He's trying to guide us to him anyways.
Very good point. Jazakallah khair for all good comments. The next one, shall we proceed to the next step? Sure. So the treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal address. So again, the all-wise Quran is the treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal address. So again, all-wise Quran is the treasury of favors of the most merciful, and the all-wise Quran is the treasury of the favors of the pre-eternal address, or the treasury of the pre-eternal address, which come forth from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. Now, Quran is becoming the treasure, right?
Yeah, the treasury of the favors of the most merciful. Yes.
So just want to highlight, it's not just addresses, so it's like a continuous thing that keeps happening, right? So eternal addresses, as you were saying, treasury and of the favors of the most merciful, and pre-eternal addresses, right?
Yes. So it is a treasury of two things, right? One is, it's a pre-eternal address. So for me, it's a treasure of pre-eternal address, plus it's a treasure of favors of the most merciful.
So when I read Quran, or when I take Quran in my hand, I should be able to see it as an address to me. Somebody is addressing to me in this book. It's talking to me, talking about me. And also, who is talking? The most merciful one. And he's talking about the favors of the most merciful one.
And it's interesting that since the emphasis was on this address, sometimes we are waiting for our phone to ring or an email to come so that somebody is going to address me, ask me how I am, and I'm becoming happy. Or sometimes there's a friend of mine, that person's phone rings a lot, but she knows that it's a wrong number. Like those, commercials are calling. So she's always upset nobody's calling her. But we are being very much happy when we are being addressed. So I guess in this sense, this is how I am. I don't know why I am like that, but I am really being happy when I am being addressed. So Quran is a treasure of pre-eternal address for me. So if you would like to be taken serious, somebody is already taking you serious. So go to this book and you will see that you are being addressed in the first person directly.
This is really important what you said. Like if, for instance, Nursi was defining, let's say, Quran as guidelines, then it wouldn't excite me that much, because I'm not a person of guidelines, let's say. But or a rule book, let's say. A rule book, yes, if I'm willing to learn about some rules, I'm going to read the rule book. But being addressed, it's so integral for all of us. Sorry?
Can I count that it's a rule book as well?
Sure, yes. But like being an address and putting the emphasis on that part makes more sense. It's something like it fits to my reality better than a rule book alone, let's say. Because, as Yusuf was saying, I am willing to be addressed. Look at the times we spend in these social media apps and so on. Not to learn something, it's just we want to be addressed, we want to be communicated constantly. And Quran says, I am a speech, I am communicating to you. Thank you.
And also the treasury of favors of most merciful or mercy is important. Think of it this way. Let's say you open your hands and you ask for something very specific from your creator. 2 days later, this very specific thing that you asked for is given to you. How do you feel like? He's hearing me. I asked for it and he has given it to me. So much of a beautiful relation. And it feels very beautiful. So now, he's saying that the Quran is the treasury of the favors of the most merciful. I am not aware that so many favors of most merciful are out there, but I am just ignorant of them, unaware of them. Quran is pointing to them, saying that, do you see this? This is done for you specifically. As was it in the Eid, we were having this discussion, it was in the Ramadan, Yusuf was there. So sun is rising for you. I am rising sun today for you. I'm not aware of it. But when I see sunrise or sunset, I am feeling happy, I am being blessed for it. But I never recognize that this is also being done specifically for me. The one that now sets the sun takes me into account when setting the sun today. Once I realize that Quran gives me this perspective, now I feel like, wow. So I am a special guest in this guest house, and sun is now today being set for me as well. It's not that, okay, we are setting the sun, whoever wants to watch, come and watch. Not like that, but so seeing this favors of the most merciful, it becomes really a treasure for me.
Alhamdulillah, such a beautiful comment. I guess it's a great point to end the discussion.
It's such a beautiful closing comment.
It's a beautiful closing comment, yeah, closing remark. Alhamdulillah.
A great favor.
So,
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتح